A thread by Soul War. Aaron J. Danielson did nothing wrong, and his killer has met justice. The Antifa triggerman died last night around 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in a shootout with the U.S. Marshals in Lacey, Washington. By the time people saw his disturbing interview via Vice News, he was already dead. I watched the interview on Twitch TV PT News Network, where Steve, the host, runs live streams from mostly Antifa press covering the riots. Steve, I, and his audience watched Michael Reinl's Vice interview as it aired, unaware he'd already met his richly deserved end. Link in the description of the thread. Link to a video in the thread where Reinl makes the incredible claim that he shot and killed Aaron Danielson in self-defense, despite two cameras catching the unprovoked murder. Watch Reinl carefully. Everything he is saying is by rote. Vice calls Reinl the, quote, suspected shooter, even though he confesses right into the camera. Yet, in the trailer promoting this interview, Vice referred to the Kenosha shooter, Kyle Rittenhouse, as a murderer. Like Facebook, they seem to think that they are the judge and jury. Disgusting. Vice is careful to emphasize that Reinl wanted the interview and reached out to freelance journalist named Donovan Farley to contact Vice, who then set up the interview. Why did Reinl want the interview? For the same reason he killed Danielson: to inflame Trump supporters. Remember, my last thread was on escalation. President Trump put out the Kenosha fire. The Democrats in their fifth column mainstream media had started far too quickly. One of their current tropes is hashtag Trump's America, which will be followed by hashtag Trump's chaos. The riots were cooling. Can't have that. A team of Antifa are sent to up the ante. Link in the description to a Portland live streamer. Listen carefully. They select a Patriot Prayer member, a Trump supporter, at random, shout loudly from all sides to disorient him as Reinl moves in to take the shot. Take that, Trump! This was done to specifically enrage Trump supporters and force President Trump to engage in Portland. They need him to. This brazen and public assassination was done to push Trump or his supporters into showing up in Portland and engaging Antifa. It failed, so Antifa upped the ante. Reinl is a fanatic and what I call a throwaway assassin. Like the Hashishin, an Islamic sect from the 10th century, they groomed young men for one kill using hashish or opium and pleasure gardens. The assassin then gladly committed one kill to then be cut down or executed. It's clear to me that Reinl has not only been groomed, radicalized, he's been programmed. Look at his interview. He's nothing but a drama queen, mouthing tropes as he calmly justifies cold-blooded murder. This interview was his idea, he thinks. No, it was his programmer's idea. Drumpf wasn't taking the bait, you see. No feds parachuting into Portland with blood and thunder, just some comments on how terrible Danielson's murder was, and President Trump stayed out of it, saying Portland law enforcement needed to do their jobs. So Reinl's friends told him to set up an interview and coached him carefully on what to say. It wasn't hard, as I'm sure Reinl's mind was wide open to them, trusting them completely. Carlos Osuita points out how Reinl and Antifa can call Danielson's murder self-defense. In Reinl's warped mind, Danielson's very existence was an attack that had to be answered. Punch Nazis to shoot Nazis in one easy lesson. Trump supporter, Nazi. The interview is why the feds chose to move in early. As Carlos Osuita said, it began with microaggression. Mere looks are violence. Then we moved on to words being violence. This justifies unprovoked physical assault in self-defense. Then it becomes thoughts are violence. Then silence and violence. What's the logical conclusion? Existence is violence. Soul War continues. Like Danielson's murder, the interview was inflammatory. It was set up and done to enrage Trump supporters, who would then watch, anger growing as Mayor Ted Wheeler and District Attorney Mike Schmidt do absolutely nothing to the confessed murderer. We gotta do something! People would descend on Portland looking for Reinl. Whoops, he'd actually relocated to Lacey, Washington, and would be unable to locate him. However, there would be plenty of the old ultra-violence with Antifa as patriots and Proud Boys battled on Portland streets. Game back on. If the feds hadn't gone from what I think was investigation and surveillance mode to arrest mode fast, any number of pissed off patriots would have begun arriving on Portland streets trying to find Reinl, a recipe for disaster. This forced Trump's hand. The feds had to go in to arrest Reinl early, probably far earlier than they'd wanted, leaving questions unanswered and certain parties unidentified. It couldn't be helped. They had to act quickly before impassioned and enraged patriots arrived and got hurt. Do you see it yet? The back and forth between President Trump, his administration, and what he's calling the very rich and very stupid people running Antifa. These people also run the Democrats. They make a move, Trump makes a counter move, and so it goes. I'm sure AG Barr and Secretary of Defense Esper would rather have waited on arresting Antifa's throwaway assassin as they compiled more intel and identified more members of his cell, but Antifa's decision to hold that interview could not be ignored. I watched that interview and it angered me greatly. The host of PTN, Steve, was furious afterwards. His channel backs the blue, and he's either an ex-cop or ex-military. Imagine someone as enraged as he was living in or near Portland, so the feds couldn't wait. What I just described is a psyop Antifa launched to hurt Trump. If they hadn't, imagine what could have unfolded in Portland as Mayor Wheeler and District Attorney Schmidt smiled serenely into every camera within reach and then did absolutely nothing to find or charge Reinl as the rage built with every re-airing of Reinl's confession by the smarmy mainstream media. About an hour after we'd seen the interview on Steve's channel, word reached us via the exemplary journalist, Mr. Andy No, that Reinl had been killed by law enforcement. An hour after that came a tweet by our, quote, clueless and bumbling president. Perfect. Trump's enemies disrespect him and underestimate him on every level. So they'll blame Attorney General Barr and the U.S. Marshals for their hero's martyrdom. Twitter was alive last night as every Antifa account decried Reinl's killing as murder and vowed retaliation. Twitter guru Carlos Osuita did a delightful thread where he mocked these dark drones unmercifully. Enjoy. As you read them, remember that the devil and his minions hate to be mocked. Your laughter reduces their power over you. Ho ho, hee hee. All right, let's finish this bad boy up. I pray the soul of Aaron finds his peace and serenity in the afterlife, and that his murderer is confronted by our Creator with what he has sown. The universe is a meritocracy. Balance is always restored in life by toil or by death in penance. One more chapter in the Soul War. To support Brent Cates' works, you can donate any amount at paypal.me/Brent Cates. Thanks for listening, and remember,
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.